All right, DNA pairing. So this problem asks us to, given a group of letters from a DNA string, return a two-dimensional array with each original letter and its pair. So we basically have half of a DNA strand. For example here, GCG returns G gets a C, then the C gets a G, then the G gets a C. So first off, let's review what these DNA pairs are. We have A, which corresponds to T. T corresponds to A. G corresponds to C. And then C corresponds to G. Simple enough. So for this challenge here, every letter has something that it corresponds to. So we will use something that's usually called a parallel array, which is two or more sets of an arrays that have corresponding elements. So I'm going to declare my first array. I'm just going to call it heads and add every element. It doesn't really matter the order of these elements at the beginning. And then I'm going to declare another array, and we're going to call this one tails. So I'm calling these heads and tails because each one of these letters has its complementary pair, its two sides of the same coin, that is readable to me. So A corresponds to T, T corresponds to A, C corresponds to G, and then G corresponds to C. So we have this nice little visual here. Each one in the row above corresponds to what's below it. It's very easy to understand, what is happening here. So now let's look at going through the pair. And since I did say going through the pair, that implies we are iterating. So as usual, we want to do a for loop. And we want to iterate through the entire length of the string. So for I equals 0, I is less than string.length, I plus plus. Then we're inside our loop. Now, first thing we want to do is get the index of where the string is at the head, so that we could use that index to find its corresponding letter at the same spot in the other array. So I'm going to put that in a variable. I'm going to call it pair index. So var pair index, and we're going to set that equal to heads.index of, and it's going to be the index of whatever is in the current position of the string. So if you use bracket notation next to a string, be it a variable string or a string literal, like here for example, you will get the character that is in that bracket notation. You will get that index character in the string. So for example here, 1, 2, 3, 4 index 1 would give us back 2, since 1 is 0 index and 2 is 1 index. Just like you would use it as an array. You can use it as a string as well. So that kind of saves us some time. We don't have to change the string there. So pair index equals heads.index of returns the index of whatever letter we are looking at currently in our string. And then we're going to use that index to find its corresponding pair, which I will just call pair, in the tails index. So we have our tails, and then we can use pair index. So for example, if we had gotten T here, that would return us index 1, and then when we look into index 1 of tails, we get A. We get the corresponding letter. Now that we have this, we want to push this into a array that also has the original letter. So I'm just going to construct this right here in place, put this inside a larger array, and put string of I at the beginning of it. In this fashion, we've just made a array of two indexes, the first being str of I, our original letter, and the second being the corresponding letter, which is what we found using our pair index. Make sure we add our semicolon there, and now that we have that complete pair, we can just push it into our result. But of course, and you can see that I forgot something here. We need to declare that result before we go into this loop. And so that's going to start as an empty array. Since we are pushing an array into this array, it will become a two-dimensional array. Here we can return our result, and running it should make us king of the world. I always thought it'd be harder to become king of the world than that, but all you gotta do is solve an array, solve a DNA pair. All right, guys. Leave comments if you have questions. As always, I'll be happy to answer them.